Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and we're going to go over an article from Fortune that is suggesting that the price decline in the housing market on a nationwide average will start declining this summer. But not only am I going to read that article, I'm also going to paint you guys a picture of the three main factors that I believe we're experiencing right now that will surely bring us into price decline this summer. In fact, you guys, we already have price decline in some metro areas. Now, it's really important to understand how hyper local real estate is. We're going to be talking about macro data. If you want to get localized data, if you want to understand what's happening in your market, just take my home buyers course. If you want to learn what wedge is, if you want to learn what cash flow is, if you want to learn the various types of loans, debt to income ratios, purchasing power, you guys, I've made an entire class for you guys to empower yourselves as you're waiting on the sidelines. But regardless, you guys, we're going to jump in, and do me a favor. Please like this video. It really helps out the channel, especially if you learn anything. And if you do learn something, please shoot me a bonkers below. You guys, that means so much to me. You may not think that I read the comments, but I certainly do, and I appreciate you guys. Regardless, guys, we're going to jump into this brief article from Fortune. I have a subscription. One of the few subscriptions I have for articles. I have Bloomberg as well, but I love Fortune. They have some really good data viz and some good articles as well. The name of this article is Home Prices Could Start Dropping This Summer, Marking the First Domino to Fall on the way to a weaker economy, a strategist says. And don't forget, you guys, and I'll paint the picture here when I get to the data section, but we already had price decline. We had price decline on a nationwide level in 2022. The thing is when we look at the data, it doesn't appear that way because we still ended 2022 up year over year. And the reason that is because the first half of 2022 accelerated like pre-COVID. So in 2020, 2021, obviously values of homes accelerated. They also accelerated like that at the start of 2022. So even though we had massive actually decline in 2022, it will not show that. Now, this is what happened that reversed those price declines. One big reason, guys, the bank term funding program stopped the bank contagion. It stopped the bank runs. We were supposed to allow that to happen. It's called boom and bust. And the fact that it was the rich people bank, it really frustrates me. So they didn't even help like common people like you and I. They helped like Oprah, the governor of California. Tell me how that's fair. But regardless, what that did is it messed with people's minds. It changed the sentiment again, and it created additional inflation and reckless spending habits. But maybe you don't agree with me. Do me a favor. Whether you agree with me or not, just shoot a comment below and explain your opinion, because we certainly appreciate that. Again, very brief article here. More homes are languishing on the market without any buyers, setting up prices to start falling as soon as this summer. This is great, you guys. This is from a senior investment strategist at Macro Institute. This is from Brian Nick. He goes on, in fact, the year-over-year percentage increase in unsold existing homes for sale is at the highest level since the great financial crisis. So what's happening in 2024? The housing market is unraveling once again, just like it was at the end of 2022. And again, you guys, I'm going to show you data. You guys are going to love the data. Again, I believe these three data sets I'm going to go over with you is what we need to see for those prices to start going down. And I definitely believe the prices will go down even sharper than 2022. And I'll show you guys that stuff in a minute. That's going to put downward pressure on prices in the next 3 to 6 months, he predicted. So basically, you guys, what he's saying is days on market. And that's one of the key points of data that I'm going to show you guys. So because the days on market is increasing and existing homes are just sitting there, obviously, in order for those sellers to sell, they're going to have to reduce their prices. That's how it works in the housing market. This goes on. For now, however, the housing market is still in its traditional spring selling season, when Americans typically shop for homes while families try to secure a new dwelling before the start of the next school year. The thing is, guys, is this spring home buying season is in the gutter. It's as low as it was in the 1990s. It's worse than periods of the great financial crisis. Think about that. It's worse than the great financial crisis. How can that possibly be, right? Isn't that astonishing? This goes on. By some accounts, this season is a disappointment so far as the increasing supply of homes has been met with tepid demand from buyers who are revolting against high prices. But when they say revolting, I mean, what are we revolting? I mean, we can't, number one, we can't afford it. So that's a primary reason we can't afford it. But revolting, I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what? I hope people are. I hope America is revolting against the housing market because we need people to stop. Here's a big issue, you guys. We need people to stop migrating to affordable areas and just buying houses like they don't care. For example, like I live in Houston. A house is say about 300,000. I've been watching a house as an example for 60 days. So I'm watching a listing for 60 days. It's about 300,000. There's multiple price drops. I'm getting excited. But what happens? Someone from California moves into my market. They see this $300,000 house and they just buy it. They don't even negotiate with the seller and they ruin it for me, who's been patient for 60 days watching this house. So the migration and these, more wealthy buyers moving into these areas, that needs to stop. It's okay to rent. Why do you keep wanting to buy overpriced houses? Why? This is going to go into more of the seasonality impacts because remember, you guys, it doesn't really get nasty until fall and winter. The fact that it's getting nasty at spring and summer, again, thank God. Like this is exactly what we needed when they started quantitative tightening. We still have not had a spring and summer where the housing market has been crippled. Remember, in 2022, the housing market peaked around May and June. So we still got through that spring home buying season. But right now in 2024, this is going to be the first year where we knock out both spring and more than likely summer. And when the selling season winds down in the summer and heads into the fall, Nick said home prices will start to drop and erode consumer confidence. Citizens and consumers are a little bit thick-headed, you guys, and I understand why. All of mainstream media has failed us. Every single person on Fox, on CNN has failed us greatly. And none of the bears even give us an opinion on what we should do. It's a complete and total failure. And I hope by you guys watching these videos, I hope you get the missing pieces to the puzzle of real estate and empower yourself and learn and increase your purchasing power. But anyways, while high prices have demoralized prospective buyers, they have buoyed sentiment among the owners of those houses, along with the strong labor market. And you guys should know by now, it's really not a strong labor market. It's really a labor market that's being manipulated by government payroll, by government jobs, which basically indicates a very unhealthy economy and a labor market. The labor market is supposed to thrive without government intervention. This article goes on. Once they start seeing housing prices fall, maybe the home next to them going for a little bit less than asking as opposed to what they would have been seeing the last couple of years. That will dent their ability to spend and their willingness to spend as well, he warned. Remember, you guys, that is one of the common traits to a housing market crash. People stop paying their bills, which is why it's been so important for me to educate you guys on the lack of income growth, because people can pay their bills so long as they have the income to do that. And the income growth exceeds the cost of living. But that's not, the reverse has happened. The cost of living has exceeded well past income growth. And that's some data as well I'm going to show you here at the end of this video. The housing market is really the first domino to fall on what we think is going to be a slower growth story down the road. So he's basically saying the recession is going to start with the housing market. In fact, we've already had a recession in the housing market, but government deficit spending, blah, 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 blah. The economy is still trucking along. Other housing market watchers have also pointed to a shift with more buyers pushing back against the high home prices that sellers are demanding. Compass founder CEO Robert Refkin told CNBC last month that 30% of inventory on the market has seen a price drop, more than any time in the last decade, with supply up 16%. This is great news. This is what we wanted to see in 2023. And we were starting to see it, but it got reversed. We got the goalpost moved back almost a year. It is a different environment. We are now seeing more sellers than buyers. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Let's keep going. But such weakness is still masked by nationwide numbers, which show home prices are rising. And remember, you guys, that's according to the median. The median does not indicate true value. If you want to know what true value is, you have to look at comps, or rather sold properties in the subject properties subdivision, or rather their neighborhood. The most recent S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index showed prices were up 6.5% in March from a year earlier, hitting a fresh all-time high. Separate data from Redfin showed the rise of 7.3% in April from the prior year. For the most part, the Macro Institute's Nick noted that the number of existing homes for sale is now up 8 to 10% annually, suggesting that prices will soon come down. The supply and demand imbalance is starting to correct, which could mean you start seeing lower prices as soon as this summer. Now, remember, you guys, almost all of the bullish narrative on how prices are going to sustain was built on the laws of supply and demand. And I actually had two interviews, actually one interview and one debate with a bull, and both of them stopped acknowledging how important inventory was. So the bulls will say, yeah, inventory is everything, supply and demand, the laws of supply and demand. But now that that's starting to correct, now that we're starting to get price discovery permanently, they've abandoned that. They've no longer talked about that anymore. They say, nah, it doesn't even matter. Inventory doesn't matter anymore. And almost no bull will acknowledge the lack of income growth. And I ask you, if you're a bull, if you don't think the housing market's going to crash, explain to me, how can people continue to afford this when we have no more savings, skyrocketing delinquency rates, and absolutely no real income growth? How can people continue to afford those payments? The answer is they can't. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. You will soon find out. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to show you guys three leading factors that are suggesting to me that we will have price decline. And not only will we have price decline, the price decline will be stronger than 2022 and will be faster than 2022. Let me start by showing you the first set of data. Now, what I've done, you guys, is I'm only showing you 2024, and the black line is 2022. The reason I'm only showing you 2022 is because remember, the second half of 2022 legitimately, doesn't matter if it's an index or a median, house prices went down. House prices went down on a nationwide level. Everyone should acknowledge that. And that's not just seasonality. If people are saying that 2022 is just seasonality, run. Run away from them because they don't understand what's happening in the economy. But take a look, you guys. DOM, days on market. Right now, according to Redfin, we're sitting at 31.5 median days on market. Anytime that the days on market is around 30 days, that's when we start having the pressure on prices go down. And what I want to point out is in 2022, we didn't get to this level of days on market until September. So right now, you guys, we're about 3 to 4 months ahead of the days on market as compared to 2022. And remember, I'm comparing 2022 because we had price decline. So now one of the leading indicators, we are well above where we were at in 2022. In fact, this time of year in 2022, we only had, 19 days on market. So this time of year in 2022, when we had price decline, 19 days on market. Y'all, it's almost double. It's not double, but it's almost double. That tells me that there's a high probability that prices will go down. But that's just one set of data. Let me show you the second set. Price declines. And like that last set of data, the black line represents 2022. Now remember, we had price decline right around June. So right around this period right here is when we had price declines. And I wanted to point out, you guys, when we had price declines in 2022, the price cuts were about 5.6. Okay? Right now, the price cuts are 6.4. We didn't hit 6.4 in 2022 until August. You guys, we're 2 months ahead. So we are 3 to 4 months ahead with days on market. We are 2 months ahead of the price cuts when we compare 2022, and price cuts are a leading indicator. This is telling us that in order for the sellers to sell their house, they have to cut the listing price. Now, it needs to trickle down into the sold price, but obviously listing price and asking price leads to sold price. But nevertheless, you guys, look at this. This is crazy. In fact, this time of year in 2022, price cuts were 3.9. So we go from 3.9 all the way to 6.4 on a leading indicator. That is two things, you guys. Just those two things alone, they're telling me the prices are going to keep going down. But here's another thing. Here's a third thing, inventory. And once again, I put an overlay of 2022. Now, what I've been estimating is we need approximately for active listings, not pending, but just active listings according to Redfin. I've been tracking Redfin. We need about 900,000 active units, and it needs to sustain. Now, remember, we hit roughly 900 active units in 2022, basically the middle of July. You guys, we already hit that. We have 922,000. The problem is, though, this isn't going up anymore. I said we needed to sustain. It's starting to go down, but nevertheless, we have more inventory right now than we did in 2022 when we had price decline. In fact, we're ahead by about a month. So we're ahead by DOM for 3 to 4 months, price cuts by about 2 months, and inventory by about 1 month. And people still don't think house prices go down. I mean, you guys are about to see, but that is very, very interesting. And in fact, this time of year in 2022, we had 794. So we have over 100,000 more active units on the market than we did in 2022. Beautiful. Now, here's the thing that needs to happen. We just need to maintain. And as you guys can see, the 30-year fixed rate mortgages in the United States, I mean, it's skyrocketed, and thank goodness it stayed elevated. Now they're down slightly at about 7%, sitting at 6.99% according to this data that updated on the 6th of June. But the thing is, guys, remember the last decade, we were sitting at 3 and 4, sometimes 5% interest rates. I mean, look at this. So in other words, we just need these interest rates to continue to clamp down on the market, on inflation, and it's only a matter of time before the prices of houses go down on a nationwide average. They're already going down in Texas. They're already going down with new homes. They're already going down in certain areas across the nation. What I'm talking about is a nationwide average. Now, here's another issue, you guys. I absolutely love this chart. Now, this again is something that bulls cannot discuss. There is no way to discuss this. I don't believe we need hypersupply or a massive foreclosure crisis for home prices to go down. We have proof of that throughout history. I believe what we really need to pay attention to is the lack of affordability. When people stop paying their bills, we have a financial crisis. And look at this last column here, guys. The black line is income growth. The blue line is home price growth. So HPI growth, and again, the black line is income growth. So we had massive home price growth and very, very little income growth. And that's not even adjusted for inflation. And when we adjust for inflation, that black line goes down. Again, that black line goes down when we adjust for inflation. But look at 2015 to 2019. I mean, that matched almost perfectly. Also, 2010 to 2014 also matched almost perfectly. So again, for the last 15 years, you had that equilibrium, but that drastically changed. And look at you guys, leading into the GFC, the same thing happened. From 2000 to 2004, we had massive home price growth, but very little income growth. And when people start comparing the 1980s and the 1970s to what's going on right now, and I'm always like, you can't do that. The consumer was much stronger. Look at this graph right here. From 1980 to 1984, home price growth and income growth were the opposite of today. Income growth was higher than house growth. That's why we can't compare the 80s. People were making more money than home price growth. Even in the 1970s, you guys, yes, there was massive home price growth, but look at income growth was still right about there. So it was a little bit out of whack, but that changed in the next few years. Do you see how it reversed right here? And that's how they were able to sustain home prices in the 70s and 80s. The citizen of the United States, the consumer, was strong. But right now, today, the consumer is not strong. The consumer is weaker than the GFC, even though it doesn't show it here. Remember, it looks like you're making more money here than the GFC, but this is not adjusted for inflation. And right here, you guys, that I'm circling, we didn't go through some inflation battle. We have a way worse, in my opinion, we have a way worse situation right now. And so really the question is when does this all happen? Well, I'll tell you guys right now, it's already started to happen. And really the question is when will homes be affordable to you? Well, in my housing market, I'm already experiencing price decline. In my housing market, I have new home builders offering still 2.5% interest rates. In my market, I am seeing signs of crash-like behavior already. The problem, guys, is it's still too expensive. So even though I can find houses at 10, 15, 20% off peak, it's still too unaffordable. And so I want to end here, okay? Here's what I want to say. Be ready. If you're on the sideline, whether you're forced on the sideline or whether you're choosing to be on the sideline, increase your purchasing power. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's credit, it's income, it's your assets. If you don't know what any of that means, then take my free home buying course. I have chapters on each of the things I just told you. And also, if you're going to buy now, use fundamentals like wedge, like cash flow. Again, if you don't know what that is, take my home buying course. Just take the chapter on wedge. Take the chapter on cash flow. We have a very special opportunity right now. If we're preparing and if we're being patient, we will get ahead. We can purchase the home of our dream at a price we can afford, but we must be careful. We must be ready. We must be preparing as we wait. And I hope, you guys, I hope that I can help you do those things. Now, other than that, let me know if you like this video, if you like this report. I really hope to hear from you guys. From the bottom of my heart, I love you. I appreciate all you've done for me and for my family. And if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know I wish you luck and I hope you win.